those of you who are tuning in for the first time, my name is Matthew Tucker. I am the Public Access Coordinator at Pittsfield Community Television. For those of you returning, welcome back. Thank you for continuing to join us for this member engagement series that we have been doing. Tonight's meeting is going to be basic training and extremely basic training for two pieces of software that will allow you to be able to do studio style production from home. The two pieces of software that I am referencing are Canva and is going to be broadband software. One thing that I am going to preface this by is what we're going to do tonight is just going to sort of preface of what these various systems are capable of. So if you are excited about what you see and to be able to do more, I encourage you to dive in and tutorials that are available online, or get in touch with us at PCTV. And connected to that is the fact that I am doing my very best to keep everything as simple as possible. Say something that ends up using as you're working on in the future. If you find that you are struggling a little bit, it's important to know as you're working at as technical curiosity, as your work rate, as your work technical curiosity will in being tech as you tech for yourself in these instances. The staff aren't available. Staff are always long coming so Google is your friend. Very often, those computer nerds that and love are those people who have how to Google computer. So don't afraid things as you're learning thing, and don't be afraid to reference this because this video will available thing for folks to be able to watch again. So go ahead and rewind it and read it and it and of the information. So I would like to start tonight with a software called Canva. Canva is a website. Canva.com. Canva. So canvas without the S. The reason I'm recommending this as a potential resource is because for the most part, it is free. There are some pro features that are available. But for the most part, it is a free resource that you can use to design graphics. And it is super user-friendly. So this is a fantastic way to play around with creating lower thirds and creating full screen graphics and doing things of that nature if you're interested in doing those on your own. So I started right from the beginning. If you go to the website, you can sign up for something or sign up for an account rather. You can also use one of your major social media accounts. So I'm going to pop in and I'm going to use my Pittsfield TV Google account. And I've done this before, so it's going to remember me and put me in. Now, the stuff that Canva is capable of doing is super duper flexible. It is able to do very simple graphics for social media, such as Instagram, Facebook, and so forth. You can use it as a baseline to create infographics and all sorts of other sort of high-end visual elements. But the thing that we're going to use it for is we're going to kind of hack its purposes, and we're going to use it to create CG for a show. Now, admittedly, a piece of software like Canva is not sophisticated enough to do some of the stuff that you may be used to seeing uh, using our Deco CG software or using Photoshop or something of that nature. And that is both where Canva is limited, but Canva shines. It isn't as sophisticated, and you can't get it to do as many fancy, pretty things. But because it isn't as sophisticated, it's more simple to learn, and it's easier for you to absorb what you're working on. So creating a graphic for use for television using Canva is very simple. Upper right-hand corner, there's a big purple button, create a design. And it's going to give me a big, long list of stuff that I can do. If I scroll through it, I will find video as one of the options. And it will automatically give me a high definition 1920 by 1080 graphical image as a default. That is kind of the standard for HD. That's what you're going to use here at PCTV if you're creating the graphic, if you're dropping it into an editor, if you're bringing it into the production studio. That's the size you're looking at. And you can always take it and shrink it if for some reason your video needs to be 720 HD or even smaller for some reason. That size is generally as big as you're going to want for doing video for PCTV. So I'll click it. So it will take you on a tour. And again, this is one of those things that's very nice about this piece of software in that it gives you the freedom to get in there and play around and do all sorts of different things and learn how it works. So I can find a template. I can modify the template by changing text and graphics and other things. I can upload my own images. That's super useful. And then I can download the content with the options right up here on the top. So I'll say, got it, get it out of the way, and show you how to do a very simple, and I mean super simple, lower third. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over to uploads. So this will allow me to upload images, videos, and audio. So Canva is really capable of being a fast and dirty video editor as well, if you are interested in sort of stretching its capabilities. Again, what we're looking at today is not doing something like that. We're going to sort of keep it simple and focus on graphics for television. So I'm going to pick images, upload media, and then I've got all sorts of places I can pull from. In this case, I'm going to pull from my device. And I happen to know that I have a folder where I keep all of my PCTV logos. But you know what? I don't have a graphic for WTBR. So you know what? I'll do the white one. I'm going to pull in the WTBR graphic. So it's going to take a second to upload it. And even while before it's done, I'm able to drag it around and move it. But once it's finished, I can drop it in, and it's going to go full size. And it's going to be really intense. So what I'll do just quickly, and the background defaults to white. I can change that if I want. And actually, the backgrounds, there are all sorts of pre-built backgrounds that exist. For what I'm doing, I'm not going to put one in there, and that'll make sense shortly. So I can add photos and elements and all sorts of other type things. There's lots of really fancy, fun visual elements that it will allow you to do. Designing text, There's audio elements that are available. And again, some of them require that you have a pro account. You don't necessarily need a pro account. So I'm going to look for a rectangle. It helps if I spell it. Rectangle. Yes, thank you. So now it's going to give me a big old list of rectangles. So I'm just going to grab a nice old rectangle. And again, we're talking about a super simple lower third. So I want my lower third to go all the way across the screen. I'm going to just do a bar on the bottom lower third. And you'll notice that I've gone and accidentally taken my logo and hidden it. Fortunately, Canva is super smart. If you move the mouse around, it will highlight other graphics that are layered about on your project. I was trying to right click. So when I right click, it gives me a menu, and one of the options are to bring it forward. So I'll bring my logo forward. So I like the way that looks. I'll then tap on the rectangle, and you know what, we're doing WTBR. So up here in the upper left corner, there's a button that lets me change the color. And this software is extremely smart. It will scan a photo that you've uploaded and say, hey, these are the predominant colors. Do you want to use one of those colors? And it just so happens that this color is a good average between all of the WTBR bars without being one of those colors. So it happens to be a perfect accent. But I can go in and I can pick one of the default colors. I can click this button and dig around for the precise fancy color that I want and get exactly what I'm looking for. I can also, and again, one of the really nice things about Canva, as you're moving around the software, if you hover over various items, it'll tell you what they are. So I can click on this box and pick transparency. And now I'm going to say, I'm going to make my box see-through. So I'll say 60% transparent. So you can still see the bar, but you can see the stuff underneath it. And that's a good lower third trick graphically to allow you to be able to see what's going on in the background with some sort of a separator on the foreground. I'll pull up some text. We'll do some basic text. I'll add a heading. And again, click and drag. There's a bunch of fonts that are available. Again, some of them have a little crown on them. In this case, I'm not too worried about that because I happen to know one of the fonts I really like is there. Type the name that I want to have on there. I can drag the corners and resize it, or I can pick a specific font number if I want to be super precise. Again, I can change colors. And a thing that's always nice to do is to add some sort of effect on your text to pull it off the background. Whether you're on a band like this or an animated graphic, and you can call on and use just about any piece of video and use it as a background, whether it's built to be a lower third or not. But it's important to have that text pull off of the background a little bit. So I'll always recommend either putting a shadow or what Canva calls a lift. And the lift is, it's sort of a glow of the color black underneath it. And I can make it darker or lighter. And you see how it enhances, it makes the text stick out. The same is true with a shadow, particularly if you make it darker. By adding that extra layer to it, I'm able to make it pop off the background. Now, there is a certain design philosophy that has been true recently. that visuals are a little bit more blocky and monochromatic and don't have this degree of shadow or lift. If you want to design that way, it's absolutely doable, but you always want to make sure that you're putting things with a strong contrast together. So I probably wouldn't want to make my rectangle opaque. Or transparent. I would want it to be opaque so that you couldn't see through it and you could see the text clearly. And that's a design decision that you can make. I personally will always tend towards putting something on the background. So now I can be as fancy as I want. I can add additional graphics to this. I can add shapes and dynamics to this bar. I can add a few different like color blocking bars to make it fancy. For the purposes of tonight, though, KISS principle. Keep it simple stuff. So now what I can do is I can take this image and I can download it and use it on a video editor or a program like OBS. So that's what I'll do. Now, it is designed to allow you to make video clips, but in this case, I am going to want it to do, let's see, download, that's what I want. So if you pick download video, it will download a video clip, which is really good if you have an animation. However, in this case, I'm going to go to the 3 dots menu, and I'm going to pick download because that will give me a big list of all sorts of different options of things that I can pick. In this case, I'm going to pick a PNG graphic. And this is actually something that's important to note. Whenever you're doing graphic design, whether you're using something like Canva or you're going to bring it into, you're going to run it through Photoshop or something of that nature, a PNG graphic is a very high quality, low size graphic that includes a high quality transparent layer. So it is possible to take an image and bring it into a piece of software and either select out a specific color or be able to otherwise modify it so that there's a transparent section. And PNGs is a great way to do that. Now, of course, wouldn't you know it, and this is a feature that they must have changed in the past couple days because it worked earlier. And that's one of the challenges when you are working with a piece of software like Canva, where they are working on, they're providing a fantastic service, but they're also looking to be sustainable. Sometimes they'll move features around, and it just so happens that the transparent background option is a pro option now. So I'm not easily to do that. And you can, if you're going to do all of your graphics really quickly, you can do a 30-day trial. But there are other ways around the transparent background problem. And actually what I will do is I'm going to make that background blue because I might be able to do that in OBS tonight. We'll see. So I'll download it. And now this graphic is going to download itself to my computer. I can make multiple graphics in a set. So down here at the bottom, there's this page option. So I can add another page and create a bunch of graphics. If I right click on this, I can duplicate it. So instead of making a whole new, I did all my design, I don't want to do it again. I can duplicate it and it's exactly the same. And now I just need to put in some other name. And that'll be good for my next lower third. So that is the basics of doing a graphic for broadcast using Canva. And again, I've only scratched the surface of what this particular service is capable of doing. Again, the goal is to provide resources to everybody at home that are either really low cost or free. Free is always preferred from our side, because we want you to be able, if you're not, for whatever reason, able to get access to the facilities here at the station, we want you to be able to create whatever you want to create and still be able to make TV remotely. So that is all I have for this segment. Now that we're done with that, does anybody have any questions?
How do you that? How if you're how?
An excellent question. Excellent. That is one that I would send for the next of software. That software because applies to Zoom. Because you sort of need an intermediary piece of software in order to make anything you designed in Canva apply to a Zoom video. So either you would have to sort of record your raw video in Zoom and then using an editor, take graphics that you made and bring them over. Or you'd have to use a piece of software like the one we're going to talk about in a moment, OBS. And OBS will actually, I haven't done it before, so we might be learning something together tonight. But OBS allows and treat it webcam. So you can use it to do all of your graphical stuff that way. The other trick is that you can use Zoom as an input and make modifications to it using a piece of software like OBS. But again, Zoom is designed to do what we're doing with it tonight to each other. It's what we're doing to use as to core that we're doing software. It's really treat it like a camera as opposed to a production. Not really is visible in that as like this was earlier, and you're able to. And actually, I'm curious running tonight, Bruce, to have done the that you did with us. Yes, what you do? Is that the curious? Are you running that through the AM or something?
I am. I'm running through ATEM, the transporter effect on a hyperdeck mini deck.
That's awesome. So, Bruce actually has a comparatively affordable version of the video switcher that PCTV uses in our production truck, as well as Studio K. So he's able to do some stuff that is probably even going to be over and above what I'll be able to demonstrate. And I think it's affordable. It's really affordable. We're working. It's under $1,000. Which for video stuff is affordable, but for affordable, like, hey, anybody can go one. It's affordable. And if you've got a budget to do video production, it's going to break your back. But we can do some of the stuff that Bruce is capable of using a piece of software like OBS.
You can do all of it, OBS.
True enough. It's just digging through the challenge, and that this is the one that'll make everybody who's not in that super geeky space feel a little overwhelmed, which is why we're going to bit overwhelmed.
Who are you calling super geeky?
So any other questions on Canva before we proceed? Then hearing none, I'm going to switch over to OBS, or as it is called in its full name, Open Broadcast Software. So Open Broadcast Software was originally designed, and if I'm remembering my software history correctly, it was designed initially with folks who wanted to do simple and inexpensive video streaming in mind. Folks who play video games were amongst sort of the prime targets for this piece of software, in that you don't necessarily want to pay thousands of dollars to put together a video switcher. You just want a piece of software to handle all your video ins and your video outs. OBS is capable of doing that. So to find OBS online, and I'm just going to off to the side here, make sure that I'm not giving you the wrong website. No, stop it. So the website for this piece of software is obsproject.com. Alternately, if you do a search for either OBS or Open Broadcaster Software, you'll find it easily enough online. When you first install OBS, it will do some testing on your computer to figure out how capable your computer is. And once it sets those baselines, it will automatically figure out the settings that you're going to want before you start doing production. So it'll figure out how fast your internet connection is if you want to do streaming. It will figure out how robust your computer is if you want to do recording. And it'll ask you a couple quick questions. It'll do some tests, and then it'll tell you how it's going to handle operating. When you first open it, and this is the goal of tonight, it is very easy to look at this piece of software and go, I don't know what I'm doing. Tonight, we're going to break that down a little bit and make it a little less scary so that you feel comfortable with experimenting. The way OBS is structured, so the big block in the middle of the screen is sort of a video preview screen. That is where I can see what I've gone and what I've built, and it allows me to mess around with my details. Down on the bottom, there are several smaller windows. One of them is marked Scenes. Scenes you can think of as different preset visual designs. So you can create a graphical design that looks completely different for a different section of a show. So for example, you could create a scene that has the open video for a show that you produce. We'd be able to provide that opening to you. So you can create a scene with the opening. When the opening is finished, you can click on the next scene and it'll automatically dissolve to the next thing that you've set up, which might be, say, for example, like a CNN style host on one side, guest on the other side kind of a setup. So let's think of that second scene as what we would do. And then the third scene might be credits. So scenes allow you to structure the way that your show is built. And then you can click on those scenes and OBS will automatically do the transition for you and get you started. Sources, which is the thing to the immediate left of scenes, is how OBS structures one of these scenes and what you can see in a scene. To add sources and mess around with them, I'm going to hit the plus button here, and it will give me a big list of the various things that I can display on the screen. For example, I can pick, and just as a quick note, OBS is smart in that it will generally automatically detect if you've got a microphone plugged in, and it will sort of be smart and pick the microphone to be your main audio that you play with. But if you want to add additional audio sources, or you've got something special like I do at PCTV, I've got a special box that I can plug a fancy microphone in and it works. You can pick the input audio sources, and I'll say create new and big box. So in this, it's going to ask me, do I want to create a new source, or do I want to take one that's been made already and copy it? I'm going to make a new one. And OBS will always pop up with this box, which gives you the ability to very specifically pick and adjust whatever you are adding. So in this case, it's super simple. It just wants to know what device I'm dealing with. So I can pick default, or I can pick any of the things that are plugged into the computer. For example, I can use the built-in microphone on my Mac. In this case, I'm using the Big Knob Studio, which is the device that I've got plugged in. And you'll notice once I added that, all of a sudden now I have an audio meter. So already you're beginning to see kind of the studiofication of this experience. So every time you want to add a feature to your program, you'll add plus, and then you'll pick the one that you want. Now, you can pick a browser, so you can pick a specific browser window to show people. You can, if you've got other computers connected to it, you can pick display capture. You can pick a video capture device. So in this case, we're talking about a camcorder. So I'm going to pick video capture device, webcam. And I'll hit OK. And it lets me pick. And actually, it's going to let me do it. Good. I was worried it wasn't going to let me show the video because I'm also doing the video on Zoom. So it will grab the video off of here. And now I've got a video camera. Now here's where that Canva training that I showed you, where we were grabbing and dragging and adjusting things, comes in handy. Because I can take my graphic or my camera and I can move it around. I can make a background. So let's see. I'm going to click here again, and I'll skim through, and I'm going to pick image. And I'll say background. And I'll hit OK. So now it's going to bring up this box again, and it wants an image file. So I'm going to check my computer. And in this case, just for funsies, let's grab that lower third I built. We won't use it as a lower third. We'll use it as a background. And I'll hit OK. Now, where have I gone? This is another one of those moments where it's important to note either your video editing experience or note what we were doing with Canva, in that everything was sort of structured by layer. In OBS, it's a little bit more obvious, but also a little bit harder to sort of think about. So down in the sources, there is the list of the various things that are on screen. You'll notice that background is actually on top of webcam. To fix this, I can bring my mouse down to that bar where I've been adding things, and I can pick one of the arrows, move up and move down. If I pick move webcam up, my video is on top. So now I can mess around with that video and I can make adjustments to it. I can scale it up and down. If I didn't like some of the settings I did to it, I can click on the gear and I can make adjustments to it. I can change the resolution of the video if I want to. And now what I can absolutely do, for example, is I could take myself and put me on one side of the screen, and I could add as a, so display capture will show your entire desktop. Window capture will let you capture a specific window. So I could open up Zoom and I can pick the Zoom windows, and it might not work correctly today because I'm telling my computer to do a lot of things. So I'm going to take it simple. But we'll say this is the Zoom video window and I'm talking to somebody. And now I can put the person I'm talking to over here and I can make them big because everybody knows me. I'm the host. And maybe I can put my webcam up and I can resize it so that I'm down here and I'm talking to my guest. Hey, guest, how are you? And my guest is able to talk up here. If I've got a website I want to show, I can add a browser window and do it that way. I could make a separate scene. So, for example, let's say website. So now I've created a new scene and I'm going to make it a browser window. So this person is going to be talking about their, oh, that's right. That's how that works. So, and this is one of those things that's fun. As a piece of software, when you download OBS, new features will get added. Sometimes those new features might be a little bit confusing. So if it says there's an update and you see some features that intimidate you, don't worry about it. Just don't download the update for a little bit until you're comfortable with playing with it. So let's see. I'm going to use Safari and I want to show everybody the WTBR Recorder website. So there's my website and my guest is going to talk about this. And I'm going to make sure, and this is important for OBS, remember that I said that each scene sort of has different components attached to it. And you'll notice that the audio mixer is running along. When I click on website, the audio mixer is going to disappear because the scenes need the various components that I need to add to it. So again, I'm going to have to add the audio input over again. So big box. Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. I can add existing. I told you I could do that, didn't I? So that makes it easy. I can just add the big box and there it is. So now we're talking about the person's website. There's my audio going and I click on scene and now I'm back here and it dissolved for me. And so I can build a bunch of different scenes with a bunch of different effects and things. I can build scenes that include media sources. So when you pick a media source, you can pick a video file and OBS will play the video file either in a section of the screen like I've got here, or you can drag it and make it big. You'll notice that my browser is super large because my computer screen is super large. So I can resize it and make it small enough for everybody to see the whole screen. Or maybe I don't want people to see my tabs up there. So I can zoom it in a little bit so that we're only focusing on the important stuff. And then when I'm ready to go, I can either hit start recording or start streaming. If I hit start recording, it'll record to the computer. If I pick start streaming, it will stream to a video website that I have set up. And this is one of those important sort of deep learning how to make stuff work. When you are playing around with OBS, it's important to pick the settings button and to be moderately comfortable with what all of the little check marks and buttons and functions do. You don't need to say, I know what every single thing does. Just be comfortable enough with what the big things mean. In this case, I'm going to pick stream. So this will allow me to go to a number of different common services. Twitch is the one that comes up on top. That is useful for folks to do gaming. And again, gaming is sort of one of those big things that this was initially designed for. But you'll notice very close behind, we've got YouTube. We've got Facebook Live. We've got Twitter and Periscope. If we pick show all, it'll give me this giant list of different things that I can send to. And most of those you're not going to recognize, and that's okay. So I'll just stick with YouTube. And then this is one of those places where you'll want to, pardon me, I'm getting messages and you're probably hearing that over my microphone. So let me mute that. And this is one of those things where hopping on Google is super useful and important because you'll want to learn the basics of how to stream onto Facebook Live. Or how to stream, and you'll notice there was a pop-up there saying, hey, your settings aren't as recommended. Do you want to change them? A neat thing with OBS is it'll be smart enough. It's advanced enough that it can do some really, really powerful stuff, but it's also kind of smart enough that it will cross-check you and correct you if you're not quite sure how to do something. But here you're going to want to learn how to get a Facebook Live stream key or how to get a YouTube stream key. A stream key is it's kind of like a web address for a video streaming file. So if you're hopping onto your browser and you're typing in a web address, you type the URL in and it goes to your website. A stream key is a special code that when you type it into, or in this case, usually you'll copy it because it's lots of letters and numbers and symbols in order to make it hard to access. You're going to, when you put that information in, OBS will go to the website and say, hey, I've got a video here. And it'll say, okay, where's the video going? And here's the stream key. Okay, that has in it the user that it's being sent to or the page that it's being sent to. The particular name of the show sometimes, because you can set that up using Facebook or YouTube, as well as all of the other like password information and things in order to be able to prove that you're you and you want to be streaming. So once you get that string of letters, numbers, and symbols, you can paste it into that box and OBS will remember it. You'll hit OK. And when you hit start streaming, you'll see down in the corner, there will be a bunch of settings that will change and then colors will change and there'll be a countdown. It'll tell you that you're live and you're going. And again, with OBS, we're only barely skimming the surface of what this piece of software is capable of doing. It is capable of doing a multi-camera video production with an animation. It is capable of doing what Bruce demonstrated with a selection of scenes. So you'd have one scene that included the background but didn't have a video source. you'd go to the next scene and you'd have it run an animation. And after running the animation, it would bring up a green screened video source, which is, again, something that you can play with as you get more comfortable. This allows you to be able to do everything that you could do at in Studio A or Studio K if you have the patience to learn how to make it work. Now, will it be as simple? Absolutely not. Will it be as pretty and as powerful? Absolutely not. But in an instance where, for whatever reason, you're not able to access the PCTV studios, this is a great additional tool to have in your toolkit to be able to create content that looks professional, and then take the recordings or take the streams and get in touch with PCTV and say, I've got this and I'd like to be able to share it on the air. Because anything that's recorded using OBS can be converted onto a video file our system can play. In a situation where we sort of know ahead of time that there's a stream that we might want to pick up, we'd be able to pick the stream up and play it live. This lets you do a lot of really cool stuff with just a desktop computer or a laptop. And that's the basics of OBS. So, questions on this?
Yeah, I've got one.
Yes.
How would I hook 3 cameras into my my little laptop computer?
So what you do depends on the capabilities of the camera, but many modern cameras have software in that allows for them to be treated as a webcam. In an instance where the camera is either too old or not sophisticated enough, there is hardware out there that allows you to capture hardware that allows you to convert camcorder into either a webcam or a similar video signal that can then be used as an option by OBS. So you could have a 3-camera, plug in a USB hub, hook 3 cameras in that are either smart enough to know that they're plugging into a computer and start converting, or have a device to help with that conversion, and then select each one as a source. And then what I would probably do is treat each one of them. If you wanted to do something that resembled a studio production, set them so that each one is a scene. So you'd name it one scene, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. And you'd attach your audio sources and any graphics that you want to put in there. And something that I didn't necessarily show, and
It was a source switcher.
Exactly.
Cool.
So another thing that I wanted to show you, and this is important when it comes to doing graphics. And this is a very simple way to be able to switch between things. You could create a scene where there's an animated graphic if you're comfortable enough, but it could be something where down in the section down here, you can turn any of the sources on and off. So I could do a graphic cut. I could have have my bug up all the time and have a lower third, and I can cut the lower third in and cut the lower third out. Again, there are ways to be able to transitions are really sort of built in between the scenes. So if you wanted to create like camera 1 and camera 1 with CG and transition to the lower third, that might be a way to do that. Again, it's sort of a process of getting comfortable with the software and getting comfortable with the rhythm that you like best. Because there's no right way to do it. It's really the way that you're most comfortable doing it. Other questions?
Matt, you're right about going to Google, YouTube. There are thousands of instructional videos on how to do all these things that you're talking about. And you'll discover that what you've shown here today is probably 1% of the capabilities of what OBS has to offer, depending on what capabilities your computer has.
Right.
You know, if you have a cheap 20-year-old computer, you may not be able to do all the things you'd like to do, such as a 3-camera switch. If you have a more modern laptop, you'll be able to probably handle it.
And there are, again, pros and cons to being able to hop online. I emphasize that one of the advantages of having the PCTV is that we know that we know that what your technical comfort level is. I'm really confused by this. I do A, B, and C. How do I do it? We're able to go. Okay. We're able to go. You're super technically comfortable. So if I go through a bunch of things and I use technology babble, you'll be comfortable. Or alternately, you'll or not as babble is comfortable with technology. So I'm going to start. Oh, my lights turned off. Hold on, Alexa, turn on group PCTV office. I'm normally out of the office right now. Technology is fun. Sorry about that, everybody. If you're someone who's not as technologically comfortable, the staff will be able to say, okay, I've got to compare this to something else that you'll be more comfortable with. The using resource like YouTube, and searching on Google and search are always accessible. Instance where you have a creative need and it's latent and PCTV is open now, it's latent and available, you can immediately start hopping on and tinkering around. The other thing is, and it's just a matter of fact, that sometimes some people are more comfortable learning from videos because they don't feel like they're inconveniencing their teacher with their lack of experience. So you can take a video and you can play a section 20 times and the video doesn't care until you're comfortable with something. So I want to absolutely encourage everybody that if this is something you want to give a try to, staff would be happy to assist you with learning how to do it, or you can give a try to learning on your own. And I would encourage doing a mixture of both, because it is a great way to find new techniques and new things that aren't necessarily the sort of stuff that the PCTV staff are running through day in and day out. And the other thing is, every once in a while, you're going to come up to a situation where, because the staff doesn't do it regularly, we don't know how to do it either. So where are we going to go? We're going to go to Google, or we're going to go to YouTube, and we're going to learn together this exact same way. So I want to encourage using both resources. Any other
So you're not going to leave them in the dark.
Oh, absolutely not.
Alexa, make sure Matt's lights are still on.
Oh, no. You're mean.
So, Matt, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
I don't know anything really about this stuff. What kind of a camera would you recommend? Nothing too expensive, but if I wanted to buy a camera that I could use to stream with, or to videotape, whatever.
So I would say that, again, this is the challenge with equipment questions. And it's the reason that I hesitate whenever I get asked this question. is that there is a small amount of you get what you pay for when you're looking at getting cameras.
Mhm.
But it and the range of pricing is extreme, because it is possible to spend tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on a camera. For most of the purposes that you're dealing with, you're not looking for that.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. So if you're doing some sort of streaming, generally a webcam will do a fantastic job.
Okay.
If you're looking to use something like OBS to do a 2-camera production, believe it or not, if you've got a laptop and a second webcam, you could do a 2-person interview show and frame it that way and set it so that you've got your interviewee and your interviewer, and you're sort of running it at the same time.
All right.
The important details to sort of think of is you want a camera that is high definition. So either 720 HD or 1080 HD. 1080 is better because it gives you more pixels.
Okay.
But one of those factors that is in there, and this is where the price can sometimes get in, is the quality of the lens.
Okay.
Because it's possible to get that many pixels on a very inexpensive chip. But if the lens is lousy, it's not going to look that nice.
Okay.
I would say, as a rule, you're not going to find a webcam that's worth its salt, or for too much less than $60.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 600.
Oh no.
Okay.
No, if you're looking at webcams, something of that nature, if you're paying less than $60, unfortunately, it was probably made in Asia by someone who's being horribly underpaid, and it's not going to do the job you need.
Okay.
I would say that sort of the sweet spot for webcams, particularly nowadays, is right around $100. You can get a really nice web camera.
That sounds fine. That sounds good. Thank you.
And one of the things that sort of gets neglected easily, and I always want to recommend as well, is that you look at investing not just in cameras, but in microphones.
A microphone too?
Yep. So you'll want to make sure to have some form of either USB microphone or a USB to analog microphone interface.
Okay.
There's a company called Audio-Technica that offers their professional microphone company that does a good range of USB microphones that I'm quite fond of. Another company that's very popular is Rode, R-O with a line through it, D-E. So there are, if you want to build sort of an in-house studio structure, you'll definitely want to think about both of those details, both the video and the audio.
And I imagine a tripod?
If you're dealing with webcams, you can usually mount them to something. If you're looking at something a little more robust, a few $100s for a camcorder and a tripod is definitely better.
Okay.
And going past several $100s is usually where you'll want to get PCTV involved.
Okay.
Because that's one of the advantages of being a member, is having access to the communal resources that we have at the station.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Other questions?
Matt, I would imagine that if somebody wanted to borrow equipment from PCTV to do a shoot for a day or so, that's certainly a possibility.
Yes, absolutely. And at this point, just because we haven't tested it yet, As of this exact video moment, I cannot tell you what of our hardware is easily compatible with something like OBS. But that's simply because we haven't had an opportunity to test it yet. If it was a situation where you approached us and said, in a couple weeks, we've got an event, we'd like to use OBS, and this is why. One of the things that we would ask would be, is there a reason that we wouldn't be comfortable with having one of our professional portable switcher installations? Because we've got a device that we call a box switcher, which is a full video switcher in a big road case box. We also have our mobile unit, as well as what we call our fly pack, which is an in-between switcher. All of those facilities require staff involvement, and so those we're beginning to open back up very slowly as everyone becomes more comfortable and we enter into our new normal space. But in a situation where you said, I just want to be able to grab 2 cameras and switch it myself and not need to worry about a staff person going with this piece of equipment, that might be a perfect application for OBS. And that would be a situation where we'd say, okay, let's sit down and figure out which of the cameras do what they do. And I can guarantee, just sort of running tech specs off the top of my head, that we definitely have cameras that can do it. It's just I don't know which ones yet, because we haven't tried. So other questions? Okay. So as always, if additional questions come up, I encourage you to get in touch with us here at PCTV. Our phone number, 445-4234. You can reach me at my extension, 121. Additionally, emails, mtucker@pittsfieldtv.org. Feel free to ask any questions you may have in that regard. And if you want to start messing around with OBS tonight, you can. It's a free piece of software. All you need to do is hop on, download it, install it. Make sure you're getting it from obsproject.com because you don't want to accidentally come across a version that's going to do something funky to your computer. The official version will not. It's perfectly safe. I've used it for a long time. But there are bad people on the internet, and we don't want you to run into that. And you can download that software and start playing with it and seeing what it can do on your computer tonight. And I'll be happy to answer questions. And if you want to review this video, it'll be up in a couple days. We've got to do a little bit to process it and make it pretty so that we can put it up on YouTube. But we'll be able to share it with everybody from that point. So if there is nothing else, I want to thank everybody for joining this evening. I want to make sure that I plug next month, April 7th. 7th, yes. No, hold on. I need to make sure that I'm not giving you the wrong date. This is actually really super important. Come on, calendar, come back. Yes. So the 7th of April, we have a session where we are going to be going over DaVinci Resolve, which is a free piece of video editing software that will allow you, with a reasonably robust computer, to be able to do post-production at home. And again, we'll be dealing with just the basics. So you can learn a lot of really powerful advanced stuff for Resolve. We're just going to be focusing on how to import a piece of video, how to trim it, how to add elements to it and how to export it. And then our next scheduled meeting after that, which I'm going to give you a little hint of, is May 11th. We are very excited about that one. We are working to bring in some experts to talk about how to produce an interview show, both on television and on radio. So that will be a WTBR and PCTV intersection, where we had Bob Heck last month focusing a lot on music and audio editing and things of that nature. May will be focusing on the art of the interview. So I want to make sure that anyone who's interested in that doesn't miss it. If you know someone who might be interested, make sure you let them know about these events and let them know about all the other fantastic stuff we do at Pittsfield Community Television. So with that, I want to thank you all again for joining me this evening. Be well, make good TV, and we'll see you soon. Have a good night, everybody.